Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Forest Owners Insurance Program. Today, we're going to have a session with Mark Campbell, who works with BrokerLink as a commercial account executive. My name is Olivia Foster. I'm the communications lead for the Ontario Woodlot Association, and I'll just share a few housekeeping items before we get started. As for all the webinars, currently, if you're attending, aside from the panelist, your microphone is muted and your video is off. We are also recording this session, so if you have to go early, you can come back to the recording later on. We'll aim to share it early at some stage next week. And then lastly, I just want to point your attention to the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We'll invite you throughout the presentation to pop any questions that you have in that Q&A box, and we'll read them out loud and go through them as we have time. The presentation should be fairly brief today, should allow some time for lots of questions and discussion. So before we pass things over to Mark, I'll just invite Glenn Prevost, Executive Director of the Ontario Woodlot Association, to share a little bit of background information about the program and to introduce Mark as well.
Thanks, Olivia. Yeah, so my name's Glenn Prevost. I'm the executive director here at the Ontario Woodlot Association. The Ontario Woodlot Association is also a member of Canadian Forest Owners. And so this is a national organization that represents the interests at a federal level of private forest owners. So all of the associations from across the country are members, as well as some large industrial and investment forest landholders. And we came together around the idea. It started out as an idea that it would be really great if we could provide some sort of fire insurance to insure timber values, because there's nothing like that in Canada. So we started talking about that, and we thought it would be good to expand that to some other insurance offerings. So liability, but what about in the East where it's not just fire, but also a lot of wind and ice that can cause damage. So we came together. I was on the national committee that looked at this, along with some of my counterparts from some of the other provincial organizations. We interviewed and reviewed a couple of different brokers to see what they could offer to us. We ended up choosing BrokerLink. We spent about a year honing this program in to make it as widely applicable as possible to forest owners. So if at any point you think, oh, geez, maybe that doesn't apply to me, think again and ask the question to verify, because we tried to make this as broadly applicable to woodlot owners and different types of forest owners as possible. We met with the company that's insuring this entire program. They wanted to meet with us as well, so we know them. And I think we've put together a pretty good package, if you don't mind me saying that, that is cost competitive, but also provides really appropriate and effective insurance. So Mark has been our point person at BrokerLink, who we've been working with. He's been fantastic. I really can't say enough about how easy it's been to work with BrokerLink. So very happy on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark now that everybody knows how we got to where we are, and he'll describe the insurance program that we've got.
Hey, thank you very much, Glenn. I appreciate that. And I'll reciprocate. Working with your organization has been excellent as well. We've really certainly enjoyed the relationship. As mentioned, my name is Mark Campbell. I'm account executive commercially with BrokerLink. We started these conversations just about a year ago now, and we're really happy with where we came to. And with that being said, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get into the presentation. And so the Ontario Woodlot Association Membership Insurance Program, this is, as Glenn said, we started this about a year ago, and we're happy to be the chosen provider for the CFO and OWA and provincial associations. BrokerLink is a national brokerage with local roots. We're one of Canada's largest P&C insurance brokerages with over 4,000 employees. But the one thing that we're really proud of is we have over 200 locations nationwide. So we still have that small town service, or where we really invest in the towns we live in. As you can see, our footprint is across Canada. We are in Quebec. We partner with a company called La and we have over $5 billion in direct written premiums. And we really live and work in the communities we serve. Our team members, they bring the local expertise. We give back to the communities, and we're an employer of choice and invest in communities across Canada. You still have that personal touch where you can go in and you can find a brokerage nearby where you can stop by and if you want to have that. Yeah. So an insurance program is insurance offering designed specifically for an association. It has enhanced coverages. We have access to markets for hard to place risks, such as forest damage for your trees. Preferred pricing. A group program offers you benefits with discounts. Voluntary benefit for the members at no cost to you. It creates a value added service for the association and their members. You really get to say we have something to offer. And most successful programs are a partnership. As Glenn mentioned, he met with the insurers on the back end, and we've really happy that we have kind of the working bond that we have. We certainly appreciate of it. The insurance offering for CFO members and Ontario Woodlot Associate members, BrokerLink has officially been appointed as the exclusive broker. It was a process, and we went through it with other companies, and we just and broker and sorry CFO chose us, and we're very excited about that. The offerings to the members include commercial insurance, and that's the forest damage. That's the coverage for your growing trees against fire, wind, and or ice. Vacant land liability insurance, which we'll get into after, but a lot of people think that they may have coverage under their personal lines, but it's something you certainly want to investigate. And additional coverage is available as well. We offer accidental death and dismemberment. I'll call it AD&D going forward just to make it easier. And then personal lines group home and auto, which is for your membership, which is really great because everyone needs personal home and auto. And just being a part of the OWA, you have access to group discounts. So the forest damage insurance and pricing, also known as standing timber insurance, it's a new way to protect your forest from damage and losses caused by natural disasters such as fire, windstorms, and ice. It's affordable, flexible insurance package now available to the masses in Canada. It's designed by foresters, as mentioned. We built this with the CFO and OWA, and really had a lot of great conversations as to how this best suits the members. And these are the people who understand your challenges, and it offers these solutions and peace of mind and financial security. And it's very affordable, as mentioned. You can choose the coverage and insured value that best suits your need, and the options available to protect your investment. Really, there's two options. There's the woodlot owners, who are the private owners, which we have said are under 2,000 hectares. The policy premiums start at $500 plus a policy fee and provincial taxes. And we really think that this was the number that we really wanted to hit for the smaller woodlot owners who want that peace of mind at $500. We feel it's very affordable. We also have the option to insure debris removal, replanting, and/or the standing timber. Which is against the fire, wind, and actually, I apologize. The wind perils there is supposed to say ice. My apologies. It's a really streamlined application, quoting and underwriting process. We try to make this as easy as possible, and to get it out there. And we're gladly here to help if you have any questions about the application. And for the number two, that's the corporate woodlot owners. They're defined as 2,000 hectares and above. Obviously, this is a membership base. We want everyone to be either a member of the CFO or provincial associations. And if you're one of those landowners that has over 2,000 hectares, we can completely tailor the policy to suit your specific needs. You can insure any aspect which you would like. You can add the different levels of coverages that you want to really kind of build out a premium that you're comfortable with. And it's something that we're really happy about it. Here we do it does show the different levels. It starts with the bronze. That's for people who want their woodlot. They just want the peace of mind knowing that they have replanting in the background. So if you choose fire or wind or both, you have that ability to ensure that. So if an event does occur, you do have some you're covered for replanting. We'll assist you with that. We also offer with firefighting, claims preparation, debris removal, and malicious damage. If somebody decides to dump something on your property, you have coverage for that as well. And it goes up to silver, which starts with your wood damage for your forest damage insurance. There, it has both the same options for fire, wind, and ice as an option, and it goes up from there. And it shows you the sublimits below for your replanting, firefighting, and as you can see, as the goes up to the gold plus, you can see as the levels increase for the coverages, and then for the corporate member plan, those are completely custom throughout. We'll build that out for you however you want to suit your particular needs. And as you can see at the bottom, the annual premiums for start at $500 for the bronze and silver package. And that's a $100 fee as well for processing. We do have to show you that, so it's part of our licensing. So you don't have to ask. If you're curious as to why we don't just put $600, is because we have to show you those fees. But I think that we really are hitting the right mark for where we want to be price wise. As you can see, the coverages are fantastic, very affordable, and we really listened to the associations with what they wanted and what they were hoping to see as far as the starting points go.
Mark, can I just ask you to remove on the last slide, the app sharing button is just blocking that line.
Oh,
If you don't mind just hitting hide there, just so we can see
yeah.
that
Let
line.
me just see where I can get my mouse here. Oh, sorry about that.
Perfect. Great,
My
thank you.
apologies. And it shows you then yes, and the deductibles here are 5 to 10,000, and we can customize it as we go. And thank you for that. Sorry about that. And here it is. It shows you if you wanted to add a little bit more, if you saw something, maybe a deficiency, and you said maybe I need a little bit more here, a little bit more there. Just so you know, these are part of the supplement. So whatever the valuation is of the tree of your lot is to you, that is the size of your policy. That's what's called an aggregate limit. These would fall within that limit. So if you had a $15,000 claim on a $100,000 policy, you would have $85,000 more for these sublimits if you wanted to increase some of them and whatnot. But yeah, we really save every so you were. It's about $150 to increase each if you so choose, and it goes up with as the packages go up. And let's talk about woodlot liability insurance. This is also known as vacant land liability, which is something where I think there's a lot of education here that I think we've all had, where a lot of people will think that because they have a personal lines and they live on their woodlot, that it covers their woodlot. Well, you'd really want to go and check into that, because a lot of times personal lines stop the second there's any kind of commercial exposure, i.e., growing your trees for harvest. And this personal liability, it excludes land use for so the personal liability often excludes land use for commercial purposes. This protects you if someone is injured on your land with no structures. Now we say no structures, we expect there to be cabins, sheds. It's just the structure itself isn't covered. This is just for the liability purposes. Landowners, we understand that you keep your property reasonably safe for visitors, but unfortunately, trespassers, if they're invited or uninvited, when they're on your property, it they are your responsibility. And sometimes, if something happens, this is the type of insurance you want to cover you, even if someone chooses to sue you and they're not successful, you do still have to pay for that court case, and that's where this liability comes in. And vacant land liability can certainly include hobby farms. And it has something really nice in that if there's a fire started on your property, say you have a sugar shack and you're doing maple syrup, and that fire starts and it spreads to the neighboring pop properties and they litigate against you, this covers you for that as well. It's a really nice add-on that it's really hard to find that. And the coverages include liability, obviously, imposed on you for injuries to trespassers, which you can put your signs up and you certainly can let them know not to come on your property. Some people just they just go on it anyways, whether they knowingly or unknowingly are on someone's property. And injuries to third parties on your property. If you have a wedding, you want to make sure that you're covered. Legal responsibility if you are deemed to have started a forest fire, that's a really important one. And incidents related to trails on your property by third parties. A lot of trails, people will take their mountain bikes on, ATVs, even just hiking in a windstorm if something happens. This is a really important peace of mind for you to have. And if you see the rates here, the pricing, it's really, really excellent. You will not see liability rates anywhere for this pricing. For the 0 to 99 hectares for $1 million, it's $204, and that is for the year. There is a $35 fee that is included within that in your provincial tax. But it goes up to $5 million for $326 plus a $35 fee, and as you can see, it increases with the size of the hectares. But these are really, really excellent rates that you'd be hard pressed to find anything even remotely close to this. And we've certainly heard some of the pricing that people are going out trying to find it when they realize they're not covered, and they're quite happy when they come back and see these rates. And it shows you here some of the exclusion, or some of the circumstances that no claims or circumstances that may result in a claim in the last 5 years. No land with transmission, oil or gas pipelines through it. No more than three wildfires in the last 5 years. Agricultural operations are allowed up to $1 million in revenue. Um, Hobby farms are allowed. No paying visitors or product liability. So if you do have a hobby farm and you're producing maple syrup, the maple syrup won't be covered, but the liability for people on your property will be. And and just even if you have any of these, if something has occurred and you click yes on this, it doesn't mean you're not going to get insurance by any means. It just simply means that we just want to have a second set of eyes on it, and they'll do a quick review and they'll see, okay, that's fine. We'll send you the policy, and it's one thing I have to mention is the online application is it's almost too easy. So if you're there and you find it extremely easy and you're kind of wondering if it's actually where you're supposed to be, it really is. We've really tried to make it that easy, and I think that's something that we want to make sure that we do let everyone know that. And some of the additional coverage, commercial coverages that we can offer, we can do buildings, content, equipment. If you're a logger, you want to bring in, you want to get quoted there, by all means. We do auto, commercial, cyber. We do legal expense. We do your directors and officers, your errors and emissions as well, environmental liability, bonds, and stock throughput. That's your goods and transport. And the directors and officers and errors and emissions, that's something that if you're in forest management, come and talk to us. We certainly want you to be a part of this program as well. And this is where it would benefit you because we have, once again, group rates, excellent coverages that really go beyond what your typical policies you would see for directors and officers and errors and admission. And so the AD&D, this is voluntary. It's voluntary and AD&D insurance available to all Canadian forest owners. It's underwritten by Chubb. This is for, once again, members of the CFO, their spouse and dependent children, and the provincial associations. This coverage is completely optional. It's just for peace of mind. It shows you the coverages here. Its principal sum is, the minimum coverage is $25,000, and it goes up in increments of 25,000 up to 250,000. It shows you the family coverage for spouse, dependent children, and it's the aggregate limit. So that's the maximum limit of the policy is $500,000 per accident. The monthly rates here are really for a member. I mean, you can get coverage for as low as 11 or $12 a month. If And some people, when they're working in their woodlots, they just want to have that peace of mind that in the event that something were to unfortunately occur, that your family would have something. And this is where this really comes in, and it's really extremely affordable. It does show you that it reduces at 50%, and it terminates at age 80. But for the people that want this type of coverage, like I say, we really, really wanted to come out with rates that were affordable to the members. And this brings us to probably the part that will pique a lot of people's interest. this is the insurance that everybody needs. This is the home and auto group insurance program. So being a part of a group, it really has its perks. Under BrokerLink Group Insurance Program, the CFO members, spouse, and their dependent children, and the provincial associations receive benefits not available to all retail customers. So if you were to go out and even if they're same bundle, your home and auto, you get good rates. You nothing can compete with the group home and auto program. It really they have the payment options. There's no interest charges or finance fees. We have claims advocacy. We have comprehensive coverage. And it's something that really, for a free quote to get an idea of what your savings could be, please contact BrokerLink. We'll gladly help you with that, and hopefully that this has piqued your interest as well as the rest of it, because it's really about saving you and having excellent coverages. And what sets BrokerLink apart? We really believe in our values. We're a full service brokerage. We really want to be one stop shop. We have access to multiple markets. We can find insurance for you for whatever your particular needs are. Like I say, we have the forest damage, the liability, the group home and auto AD&D, but we can also look at if you're a member or just about any insurance that you can think of. We'll gladly help you with it. We have the experience and expertise behind us. We have dedicated support across Canada. We have a lot of diverse partnerships, program marketing and growth. And as mentioned, we have that national footprint where we're in the community that we serve and the customer hubs where you can still get that experience of going into an office. And we have a commitment to technology. We do online quoting, BrokerLink Connect, AI to enhance customer experience. So we want to be your one-stop shop and your preferred insurer, and we've really tried to put together something special here that we hope certainly interests the member. And I'll stop sharing now.
Excellent. Thanks so much,
Not
Mark.
a problem. I do apologize. I know I threw a lot at you in a short period of time, but please ask away. I'll let Olivia take
Lots.
over now.
So we do have a few questions coming in through the Q&A, but just before we get to those, I just wanted to invite Glenn to just add a few comments that you thought would be of interest to folks.
Yeah. So so I think the group home and auto is really great. So my parents have called in. They're waiting on their quote to come back, but they're likely going to be saving 15%. So I'm going to share some of those details with the rest of the membership when I know it. But the other two coverages, the forest damage and the liability, I just wanted to say a couple things about that. So the forest damage insurance is incredibly flexible. So like I said, it started out, oh, we want to insure the standing timber value, which this can do. But there's lots of folks out there who I know, the timber maybe does not have a lot of value, but there's concern around, I just spent a lot of money in planting. Or what happens if a storm comes through and flattens my forest and I can't get access to it? All the contractors are tied up, or it's going to cost an arm and a leg, that sort of thing. This is where this insurance comes in. So you can then insure your forest, not necessarily for the timber value, but maybe for replanting, for restoration, to have somebody come in and do the cleanup afterwards, so you can still access and enjoy your woodlot. So the forest damage insurance, that's really where it plays in, is to tailor to your needs exactly what you want. The second one is the liability insurance. So again, another one from my parents. Well, as I was going through this process, I said, "Do you have liability for your woodlot?" And my mom is very meticulous. She said, "Yes, yes, I do." I said, "Can I see it? I'd just be interested to see what it looks like." So she went back and she said, "Oh, I think it's $61 a year," which I thought sounded kind of low. And so it turns out, no, they did not have liability insurance for their woodlot. They did it one time. There was a change to the policy, and so they didn't have it anymore. My mom was unaware of that change, and so they had been sitting there thinking they were insured when they were not. That same thing also happened to President Colleen Bear of the OWA. But back to my parents, it took my mom a month of back and forth with an insurance company. Their broker had a long, hard find, or a long, hard time trying to find an insurance company that would insure their woodlot. And they were asking questions like, well, what kind of fence do you have around the entire perimeter? Oh, any sort of fire. So if somebody's hurt in a fire, if a fire escapes, all that's excluded. What sort of surveillance cameras do you have? Are you walking that perimeter every couple of days? These are just, not understanding how woodlots work. My parents have a pond. They've had issues where kids have come in and swam in that pond, and they're very concerned about somebody getting hurt or drowned or different things like that. And the insurance company didn't understand those issues. They came back with a quote for $2 million, a bunch of exclusions, and it was almost $1,000 a year. With this program, they made the switch. They're going to be at under 200 or under $300 a year for better coverage. So my point is that there's value in taking a look at your current package of insurance, looking at what those exclusions are, even if you don't make a change. Not that you're necessarily going to find better rates, but make sure that you are insured the way that you think you are, because we've already found two people who thought they were insured but were not. So I just wanted to share that with folks, kind of that story, and the rates that we've got here are quite good. So looks like Olivia, you've got some questions there.
We have lots of questions. Thanks, Glenn. If it works for you, Mark, we'll just start diving into some of them. I can read them out loud to
Absolutely.
you.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so just starting, there's a couple questions asking about essentially whether you need to purchase the whole package or whether you can pick or choose. So is it possible to get the liability without the forest damage coverage?
Absolutely. Each is an individual policy. If you choose the forest damage, you can just do that. If you choose the vacant land liability, you can just do that. By all means, sure, definitely, you can pick and choose whatever you want.
Great. And then, so that kind of answers this question. Is it possible to only purchase for the liability? But then on top of that, is there a difference for having liability with or without permission, or is that one package altogether?
So, with or without permission, what I'm taking from that is whether someone's on your property with permission or not. Yes, no, I mean,
Trespassing.
yeah. Unfortunately, in the time we're in a very litigious society where people have the opportunity, if they're on your lot trespassing, even if you have signage, to potentially bring suit against you if they're injured, and this is absolutely going to cover you.
A question about when your home is in the woodlot, and this might be personal preference. It might also be a little bit of investigation yourself. But the question is, if your house is within the forest, do you still need to add the home insurance? Or can you keep the current home insurance? If it's the same, are there duplication of liability insurance there?
It's going to take a little bit of investigation on your behalf for that, but more often than not, once you let your personal lines insurer know that you have a woodlot that you're growing for harvest, that's considered a commercial operation. This is where most policies will terminate. They'll say, no, you don't have coverage. We only want to cover it if there's no commercial on it. So do a little bit of investigation. You don't have to, there's no obligation for you to get the group home and auto, so you can keep that separate. But the vacant land, certainly something that you may want to take a look at. And also, I mean, it's a free quote, so you're not obligated, but take advantage of it and just see what the savings could potentially be for your home and auto. And but they are separate policies, so there wouldn't be cross coverage there.
Right. Similar again about home ownership. We have a woodlot, but don't harvest except for one thinning. This was several years ago, so maybe they don't plan to thin in the near future. Do regular homeowners coverage cover the land, or do we need this vacant liability, or sorry, this vacant land coverage?
And once again, that would be a little bit of homework on your end. I can't speak to every policy out there, but you would want to get in touch and just let them know that it's not just your property, that you do have a woodlot. Do a little bit of investigation, ask your current broker, and if they say no, we need to do an extra policy for that. This is where you would want to come and take a look at the vacant land liability and compare prices, because I'm fairly certain that we're gonna be more affordable for you.
And I would also add to that, Mark, take a look, even if it does extend to the woodlot, what the exclusions are, because there
Oh,
could be some,
100%,
yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
yeah.
Speaking of exclusions, there was a question, or rather, a question about conditions. Would part of the conditions of this coverage be that it's necessary to have signage on the border of your woodlot?
No, no, you don't need to have signage. We understand that some of these woodlots we do understand are going to be fairly rural, fairly. Some of them could be really on the middle of nowhere. That just it's just a property with one road that leads in and an access point. No, there's not a need to have signage. We in the background, the people that do this, they do it around the world. They've been doing it for over 30 years. They certainly understand that. Um, the space that we're in, but to answer your question, no, you don't need to have signage on your property.
Great. And I think this question has kind of been answered, but just to clarify, does this insurance cover people who live on their woodlots? So their home is part of their woodlot.
Yeah, yeah. Whether you live on your woodlot or whether you have separate or multiple properties, absolutely, it covers you. You just want to make sure you just the important part is making sure that you are covered. That's the priority. So do a little investigating. You can certainly you put the address for your woodlot, whether it's whether you live or whether it's a separate area, and this is where the vacant land comes in to cover it, or the forest damage as well.
Excellent. This is rapid fire now, Mark. We appreciate all the time that you're taking with us. We
No
do have a
problem.
couple questions about hunting.
Mhm.
So there was one about, can my liability insurance cover accidents by hunters using my property? And then similarly, would the liability cover an accident relating to hunting if someone trespassed on your property? For example, the sound of a gunshot during illegal hunting season scares a trespasser and they run. I'm just a scenario, and maybe they
Right,
trip.
yeah, yeah, I mean, if somebody is, as long as it's in a legal manner, then yeah, we wanna make sure that we're not shooting at people by accident, but, no, absolutely, it covers people that are on your property, and that's why you want this insurance to make sure that you do have that liability, and, yeah, absolutely, you'd be covered for that as well.
Excellent. And then there's a question here about a cottage being covered. I'm assuming whether you live there permanently or not, the coverage would.
We could look in yeah, absolutely, that would be on your personal lines, you'd wanna look into getting the cottage covered with our group home and auto. You take a look at that, that is your personal lines, and then, look at the liability and look at the force damage for the woodlot.
This person asked if they could get an estimate if wind, fire, and ice were included.
Sure, absolutely. If I just email me afterwards, and you can definitely send in for just a quote to find out exactly what the prices are. Same as the rest of it. Really, you can get a quote for anything prior to binding. It's something that you have every bit of a right to do that, and we're happy to supply it.
Super. So there's a couple questions about liability here.
Mhm.
Do you cover liability on private roads through a woodlot? What about roads with other people, like cottagers who might have right of way?
We'd have to investigate that. This would really be a case by case scenario, because everyone's going to be a little bit different. If the woodlot is just a private road onto it, then the liability would extend to that. But the rest of it, we'd have to. It would most likely be referred to our underwriters to get an idea of that, and so that's something that would be case by case basis.
Excellent. And then this one is pertaining to a gravel pit, might as well be a case by case basis. Can my liability insurance cover a gravel pit on my property?
That would be referred to the underwriters, and they'd have to make that determination as to what that looks like. So that's yeah, as mentioned, it's not that we don't want to stop you from getting liability insurance, but every kind of little nuance that comes in that's going to need a second set of eyes. It just needs that means the underwriters behind us, the insurers, they want to take a look at it to really define what it is, see how its relationship to your woodlot. But yeah, it doesn't mean you're not going to get insurance. We just want to take a look at it.
Fair enough. A question about fire. If your forest was to burn down, how is this loss calculated? Does the insurance only cover the market value of the timber, or does it cover the loss of the property value due to the fire?
So this is the for the this covers the trees and the value of the trees to the value of the trees to the woodlot owner. Not so it's not for the contractor's value or the sawmill's value. It's the valuation of the woodlot to you. That's what would be an insured here is the trees themselves, and so that's the valuation would be determined. We do give a guideline on the application, but if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to Glen or your association for help in valuation in evaluating that. But that's what's covered is the value of the trees.
If I could just add on to that, Mark, the way that this is structured is it's not there's not an appraised value of the trees that were lost. You choose what the value is and what you want to insure, and that's what's insured. So it makes it a lot simpler
Mhm.
than having to go out and measure all the trees and what was lost and that sort of thing. You just confirm that there's a loss and what the insured value, what the person picked.
Thanks for adding that in, Glenn. Just a few more questions here in the chat. There was a question here about site visits. Would there be a site visit to see the whole picture of the land use?
So no, what it is when you put in for your woodlot insurance for the forest damage, we ask that you do a KMZ file. That's essentially just it sounds a little more complicated than it is. Really, you just go to Google Earth, you click a little box at the top, you do your mapping around your property, and you send that in, and that's the area that's insured. So no, we don't need a site visit. We just need a KMZ file to identify that it is your property. And once that's sent in, and then in the event of a claim, then we would just send boots on the ground to take a look at it, see what portion of your woodlot, what percentages, what maturity the trees are, and then we would have a satellite imaging of it to show the burn scar, and then a payout would be within 3 weeks. But to know we don't need a site visit. We just need you to be a member of the OWA in good standing.
Right. Um, we have a beaver dammed lake on our woodlot. Does the insurance cover downstream flooding, or I suppose any flooding?
No, we don't cover flooding currently. No.
Thank you. Um, so I understand that BrokerLink has many partnerships, including the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. This question is saying, I have liability insurance through my OFAH membership, which I think is offered via BrokerLink. Do I still need additional liability insurance?
That would be for you to investigate to take a look at to see exactly what you have with them, what the limits are, and then ask them the questions as to what is covered on that end. And then from there, you would contact us and say, "Here's what I have covered," and we would be able to help you mapping out how it looks for your next steps.
Excellent. And just a final couple questions here. There's one question here, I think, talking about if there were a fire and the cause of the fire was a burning appliance, is that covered?
Yeah, yeah, that would be considered an accidental fire. I mean, hopefully it's not your home that's on fire and it's something outdoors like say a barbecue unfortunately lights on fire and causes damage and it spreads to your neighbor's lawn. You would be covered for that. But yes, absolutely, you would have coverage.
Great. Um, and there's a final question here. I'm not sure how applicable this one is. It's talking about expropriation, and whether there's any coverage included there.
For
Does,
expropriation of land, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. Sorry, that's
yeah, okay.
not in my expertise.
Great. Well, that is all of our questions, Mark. I'll just take a moment to see if there are any others that come up in the next little bit. And while we do that, just going to pop a couple resources in the chat here. And so lots of people here would likely already be Ontario Woodlot Association members, but if you're not, I'm including a link for how you can join the Ontario Woodlot Association, and it's also something that we'll share via the recording for folks who come across this elsewhere. And then the broker link as well, the broker link information webpage. You can find some more information there. Um, I'll just take one final question here before we wrap things up. Um, so, question, is there any reductions for specific management practices or fire management practices?
No, we just want to know that they're in place. If it's for the vacant land liability and you're saying here's what I do, we can actually take a look at that. But for your forest damage, it's strictly on the valuation of the forest. That's what we base the premiums on. We just want to know that you're managing your forest. That's the important part.
Just see a question there. Contacts for BrokerLink. You've put that in the chat. If you go to that website, that has all the information on the program and the contacts that you need.
Thank you. And this is just, I guess, another final question here. Can a limited company purchase insurance if some of the stakeholders are members of the OWA?
Yeah, we could look at, like I said, we're here to be a one-stop shop for all insurance solutions. Please contact me with your needs, and we'll certainly look into any way we can help. By all means, I mean we've joked about it, but we can do pet insurance. We're willing to work with you on just about any avenue, and we're really happy to do so.
Super.
And an
Um,
organization can become a member of the OWA, so that's another way. Like that wouldn't be a barrier. We would figure out a way to get you eligible from
And
from a,
and
from a membership point of view anyway.
And to touch on that, Glenn, I mean, if your organization joins the OWA, now all of a sudden you have an offering for all of the members of your organization. Now you can say we can offer group home and auto through our membership with the OWA. It's a really nice add-on for employees and things along those lines. So absolutely.
it's to that effect as well. I'm just seeing a question here that someone's woodlot is owned through a land trust. Is that an issue with getting coverage?
No, we just need to have the name on the deeded land for the policy. That's all.
Excellent. And we've talked about coverage for fire, wind, and ice. There's a question about what about pests and disease?
At the moment, no, we're not offering pest and disease right now. We're gonna have a very evolving product. It's something that we've discussed. It's not to say that it might not be in the future, but currently we're only doing the three perils, so to speak, the fire, the wind, and the ice coverage.
And
Excellent.
just to add on around the trust, it may not be a land trust or through an easement, but the land is owned in trust. That would be fine too.
Mhm.
I see we have one hand raised here. If that individual wants to ask a question out loud, I'll just invite that here before we wrap things up.
We unmuted now.
Yeah,
You're
we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Mark. It's Sandy Agnew here. Uh, just for everybody's information, Mark, I'm a managed forest plan approver under the MIFTIP program, and Mark is getting me a quote on liability insurance for my business to go on people's property and prepare their managed forest plans. Did you want to say anything about that, Mark? It might be
Uh,
there might be quite a few OWA members are approvers, managed forest plan approvers like myself. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, and good to hear from you, Sandy, again. Absolutely. We, as mentioned, we want to be a one-stop shop. If you're a forest management company, if you do anything in this sphere that you think you want to get your insurance checked, by all means, we can offer, as mentioned, directors and offers errors and emissions for professionals that are managing forests. We are absolutely here to help in any way we can with any of your insurance needs. If you think that you just want to quote, we can absolutely look at that and help you in any way we can. So you just saw some of the offerings that we have today. If you want to come in, join the OWA and get a quote based on your forest operations of any kind, please do. I don't want to speak to Glenn for who all can join. That's a Glenn conversation, but we're happy to help anybody with your insurance. Everything from uh, site advisors such as yourself, consultants, Sandy, to loggers, to forest operations, mills, sawmills, veneer mills, plywood, you name it. We want to help you.
Thanks for that question, Sandy.
I think we are slowing down in the question department. There was a question here about whether there's a minimum size for woodlot acreage, which I'm assuming is no minimum size, Mark.
That's a it's this is membership based, so that's a what the minimum size for membership base. That's a Glenn question.
Yeah, no, we don't have a minimum size.
And there is a question there about getting in touch with BrokerLink. So that link that we popped into the chat will take you to BrokerLink's website and some contact information there.
And
And
my contact information is there as well. My phone number is there if you want to contact me. There's a my email is there as well, macampbell@brokerlink.ca. Please, any questions you think of after this, if you want to reach out, if you want insurance, by all means, I'm happy to chat.
yeah, and if you do, if you do get through to somebody at BrokerLink, they can also direct you through to Mark. They'll be able to find him for you. And just, remember this program's less than a month old. So, if you're one of the first people to call in, we're still, BrokerLink's very good, but you may run into a little quibble or something like that. But just get in touch with Mark and he'll fix you right up. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Super. Well, I think we can wind things down, and also happy to share when we send those slides, Mark. We can also share your email as well with folks.
Yeah, happy to do so. Yeah, and
yeah,
as mentioned, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help anybody with any of your insurance needs. We really want to support the OWA, support growth here, and we look forward to anybody with any questions going forward and to help you in any way we can.
yeah. And I just wanted to thank you, Mark, but also thank everybody for those questions. Um, the more questions that we get and we can clarify, it really helps other people understand what this coverage is all about. So thank you very much.
And on that note, I think we can sign off. Thanks, everybody.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody, for all the questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Olivia and Glenn, as always.
Thanks, Mark.